In this lecture series, we will learn about the oscillatory motions. The motions are generally classified into non-repetitive and repetitive motions. Non-repetitive motions are those motions which do not repeat themselves. Like if we take a rectilinear motion of a car, the rectilinear motion of a car is not a repetitive motion. It is a non-repetitive motion. Or if we talk of a parabolic motion, the parabolic motion is also not repetitive motion, it is non-repetitive motion because it doesn't repeat itself. Repetitive motions are those types of motions which repeat themselves. Now, if they repeat themselves after a regular interval of time, those are called as periodic motions. If they just repeat themselves, if time period is not important, these motions are not called as periodic motions but are repetitive. I will repeat it. Repetitive motions are those motions which repeat themselves. If they repeat themselves after a regular interval of time, those are called as periodic motions. If the time period is not important, those are called as repetitive motions. Now, that means all periodic motions are repetitive, but all repetitive motions are not periodic. Now, periodic motions can be oscillatory motions and vibratory motions. Here also, these oscillatory and vibratory motions repeat themselves after a regular interval of time. But here, that regular interval of time only is not important. Here it is important. In oscillatory and vibratory both, there is to and fro motion or back and forth motion between a mean position. So we can say that all oscillatory and all vibratory motions are periodic motions because they repeat themselves after a fixed interval of time. But all periodic motions are not oscillatory or periodic motions are not vibratory. Likewise, we can take example of Earth revolving around the sun. When the Earth revolves around the sun, it completes one period in 365 days, but the Earth does not move to and fro about its mean position. That means the motion of the Earth around the sun is a periodic motion but is not oscillatory or vibratory. Let us discuss in detail about the example. If we talk of periodic motion, the motion of Earth around the sun which completes its revolution in 365 days is periodic motion. The rotation of Earth around its own axis is a periodic motion and it completes its rotation in 24 hours. If we take a clock, we have got three hands. One is second hand, minute hand and hour hand. A second hand completes one revolution in 1 minute. That means the motion of the second hand is a periodic motion. The motion of minute hand is also a periodic motion as it completes one revolution after 1 hour, and the motion of the hour hand is also a periodic motion. It completes one revolution after a period of 24 hours. But the to and fro motion is missing here, here and here. So these are periodic motions, not the oscillatory or vibratory ones. Now if we take example of the oscillatory motions, if we have got a wall clock with the pendulum, that pendulum swings back and forth about its mean position. The motion of that pendulum is periodic and oscillatory. If we take example of a simple pendulum in which we have got a bob fixed about this end by a thin, inextensible, massless string, the motion of the bob about its mean position is periodic as well as oscillatory because it moves to and fro about this mean position. If we take a U-tube filled with water, if we push one side of water down, the water goes back and forth in that U-tube and that motion is oscillatory. Now, The question is, if to and fro motion is vibratory as well as oscillatory, why is one called as oscillatory motion, another is called as vibratory motion? When we talk of the frequencies or number of cycles per second, when the frequency is smaller, that periodic motion or that to and fro motion is called as oscillatory. If the frequency of the to and fro motion or back and forth motion or the oscillations is larger, then that is called as vibratory. That means when we talk of lower frequency like that of a simple pendulum, we call it as oscillatory motion. When we talk of to and fro motion like the molecules of a substance, gas, solid or liquid, as the frequency is larger, we call that vibratory. But both vibratory as well as oscillatory is a periodic motion. We will revise the facts. All periodic motions are repetitive, but all repetitive motions are not periodic. Because in periodic there is a bondage of the time period after which it repeats its motion. But in repetitive motions, only the repeating is required, not the time period. If the time period is to be fixed, that repetitive motion is called as periodic. If the time period is not required, that repetitive motion is just repetitive. Thank you.